Do you feel drawn to the energy of the moon and crave getting in touch with its energy so that you can live more fully in the flow of the seasons and cycles of nature? But maybe you're a little bit unsure of how to actually do that. How do you connect with lunar energy? Well, your crystals are an amazing companion that is so supportive on this journey to connecting with the moon. The moon, because it's our nearest celestial neighbor, has such a deep impact on us, and by connecting with its energy, we can actually live more in alignment and flow with nature. In this video, I'm sharing my 11 favorite crystals for making magic with the moon. Crystal number 1 is Selenite, which is named for the ancient Greek moon goddess Selene, who was called Luna in ancient Rome. And this stone has long been connected with lunar energy. When you look at selenite, it even looks like the light that's reflected from the moon's surface. It has that beautiful shimmer and sheen. Crystal number 2, of course, is moonstone. And moonstone was thought to be solidified moonbeams, or the light of the moon, captured in stone by many cultures throughout history. Now, any variety of moonstone will do for helping you get more connected with the moon, but a few of my favorites are peach moonstone, rainbow moonstone, and black moonstone. Next up, we have clear quartz, and the bright light that shines through this stone is really reminiscent of the reflection of the sun's rays off the moon's surface in the night sky. And this makes a perfect crystal companion for any type of magical moon workings, rituals, and ceremonies. Then we have pearl. And although pearl is made by sea creatures instead of through geologic processes, pearls have long been connected with the moon, and they're traditionally associated with Monday in the days of the week. If you didn't know, each day of the week has a traditional planetary and god or goddess correspondence, and those then relate back to stones. So Monday, which is the moon's day, that's where the name comes from, is connected with pearl. And if you don't have a pearl to work with, you can work with mother of pearl. It makes a great substitute. Pearl is also associated with the ancient Roman moon goddess Luna, who I mentioned earlier. Next up is Lapis Lazuli, which is also known as the stone of heaven. And you can see why, because it resembles a star-filled night sky, and it's great for connecting us with the cosmos. Then we have one that's not so much rooted in history. It's more of a personal connection and correspondence, and that is blue kyanite. But I want to share this one with you because I love blue kyanite, and there's something about the kind of sharp, directional energy that's really reminiscent of the arrows carried by the moon goddesses Diana and Artemis, who were worshipped in ancient Rome and ancient Greece, respectively. I love working with blue kyanite when I'm looking for some meaning or guidance from the moon, and I hope you'll give this one a try as well. Next up is Aquamarine, and although you might not really see the connection between Aquamarine and the moon at first glance, Agrippa wrote that Aquamarine is connected with the moon, possibly due to its connection with the water element. And the water element, of course, is connected with intuition and the emotions, both of which were also historically connected with the moon. So these two naturally make a great energetic pairing. Number 8 on my list of the 11 best crystals for making moon magic is amethyst. People have long been using amethyst to connect with intuition and psychic skills, in fact, going back to the time of the ancient Romans. And since the moon is also connected with intuition, it pairs really naturally with amethyst crystals for any type of psychic work. Then we have one of my favorite stones, Labradorite. And Labradorite is a really mystical stone that gets its brilliant flash of color from reflected light, similar to how the moon is illuminated by light reflected from the sun. And the energy of Labradorite and the energy of the moon are kind of like kindred spirits. So work with them together to enhance any moon rituals or lunar activities that you're planning. Number 10 on my list is silver. And you might be thinking, well, is that really a crystal? It is. Silver actually has a crystalline structure, even though it's a metal. Silver is associated with the ancient Greek moon goddess Artemis, and Agrippa wrote of the correspondence between silver and the moon all the way back in the 16th century. Now, if you don't have any silver to work with, that's okay. I don't expect you to have a big silver nugget. I sure don't. But I have plenty of silver jewelry, some that even contain some of these other stones that are connected with lunar energy. So these make a great way to tune in and connect with the energy of the moon. Now, last but not least on my list isn't necessarily one specific type of stone, but rather a shape. So any moon-shaped crystals are great for connecting with the energy of the moon. And in fact, although they can be made out of any type of stone, if you choose a moon-shaped crystal out of one of the stones that I listed previously, it really amplifies that lunar connection even further. When you're choosing a moon-shaped crystal, be mindful of which phase shape that crystal is in. So maybe it's in the shape of a crescent. You can use that to represent a waxing crescent, or flip it over and have it represent a waning crescent. Or you can choose if you want that shape to represent the lighted portion of the moon or the dark portion of the moon. So you can have it be a crescent or a gibbous shape, depending on how you're viewing it. And this gives you a lot of flexibility to represent different phases of the moon with just one stone. And when working with this crystal, think about what phase that crystal shape is connecting to and the correspondences that moon phase has energetically, because this will add another layer of energy to the work that you're doing with your crystals. So you might be wondering, this is great, Ashley, but what do I actually do with my crystals? How do I actually work with them to connect with the moon? Well, I recommend a really simple practice. To work with your chosen moon crystal, hold it in your hands and try gazing up at the moon while you're holding your stone. Feel yourself connected with the moon's energy. Notice its color, its size, its phase, and see it in as much detail as you can. See the areas of light and dark representing all those hills and valleys and craters, and just take a moment to really appreciate the moon. Now, once you can see it really clearly in all of its detail, you've taken it in, try closing your eyes, taking a few deep breaths while holding your crystal to connect with the moon's energy. You might even try holding your crystal up above your head and allowing the moon's energy to come down, charge that crystal, and enhance your work even further. This will make that lunar connection super strong and allow you to tune into the moon's energy even when you're not directly connecting with the moon, just when you're working with that specific stone. So by charging this stone up that way, it's great to pull into any type of ritual or ceremony where you want that specific energy of the moon. If you want to take this even further, you can begin to track the moon's phases through the lunar cycle and work with the moon during specific lunar phases. I cover this in depth in my book, Cosmic crystals, and I discuss the 8 major phases of the lunar cycle, as well as what each represents and which crystals correspond to that phase. I also have a little snippet of this information over on my blog and in my podcast this week at loveandlightschool.com. Well, that's it for this video. I hope it gets you super excited to connect with the 11 best crystals for making magic with the moon. Until next time, I'm Ashley of the Love and Light School of Crystal Therapy. Crystal blessings. Do you feel intuitively called to work more deeply with your stones? To grow your confidence, knowledge, and connection to crystal energy beyond what you can learn on your own? Our award-winning Crystal Healing Certification Program will take you from crystal lover to a confident, certified crystal healer and help you discover your soul's path and crystal purpose. Maybe you want to deepen your personal spiritual practice by connecting more deeply to your stones. Or maybe you're already working with crystals, but you want to learn some more advanced energy healing techniques. Wherever you're at on your crystal journey, the Love and Light School's CCH program can help you become the confident and intuitive crystal healer you know you can be. Are you ready to listen to the nudges from the universe and take the next steps on your crystal journey? Our CCH program is here to support you every step of the way.